Well, welcome back for another installment in our on-demand training series for Microsoft Dynamics CRM 4.0. My name is Randall. I'm with CRM on Target, and today I'm going to walk you through a quick little video here on building a basic CRM workflow. Starting with an explanation of, what workflow is a way using CRM that we automate our business processes. So we get our computer and software to do a bunch of things for us that we really don't want to have to manually do ourselves. And what you can do with Dynamics CRM workflow is really somewhat infinite. But just as an example, you can send internal and external emails. You can schedule things in Outlook like tasks and appointments and follow-ups and those types of things. You'll see that there's a number of actions we can take with workflow here in just a moment. But what makes it really, really cool is that you can do it yourself. You get to bypass IT. You get to bypass snotty consultants. And you can, in a short period of time, just using point-and-click technology that I'm about to show you, you can go out and you can build very cool, very robust workflows. So to set up the context for today's session, let's build a simple workflow. Let's say that anytime we get a new sales lead in our system, we want to assign it to somebody on our sales team. You want to notify that person that they've been assigned a new sales lead. We want to send an email out to our new sales lead, out to the prospect from the owner that we've assigned the sales lead to, and we want to schedule a follow-up task on that sales lead owner's Outlook task list to follow up with that sales lead. So let's go do that. Now, of course, everything we need to do with Dynamics CRM is found right within the Outlook experience. So with that stated, let's just go ahead and jump over to Microsoft Outlook. When I come into Outlook, you'll see that down in my CRM folder tree, I'm going to want to come down to Settings. And from Settings, I can select Workflows. The New button is always in the same place, so I want to build a new workflow. Let's go ahead and select that. The first thing I'm going to want to do is give this workflow a name. And we always run workflow against the type of record that it was written for. So for example, this is going to be a workflow that runs against sales lead records. I would never run that against an account. So I want to go down and I want to select that the type of records I'm going to run this workflow against are going to be sales lead records. And I want to create a new blank workflow. So I'm just going to say OK. And up comes my workflow window. Now before we start pointing and clicking and building, why don't we just cover this area up here at the top of our screen. First off, we've already given it a name, and we've said that it's going to run against sales leads. I want to publish this as a workflow and not a template, although I could build a template for future work and development, save me some time. We're just going to go ahead and build a workflow. Now if I run a workflow like this, for example an on-demand workflow, that gives my user the ability in their user interface to click a button against these selected records and execute a workflow. We call that an on-demand workflow rather than an automatic workflow. I could be building this as a child workflow, which means it would only be run, it would only be executed by a parent workflow. We would never come out and manually execute it, and it would never run automatically. It would just run when a certain other workflow triggered it. Over here on the right-hand side, what's the scope of this workflow? Do I just want to run it for records that I own, or all the way up to my organization so that everybody in the company can run it? And that's what I want to do. Now, these are all the automated ways to run workflows. For example, when the record is created, run a workflow. If the status changes, then run the workflow. If we assign ownership of this record to anybody in the company, go ahead and run the workflow then. Or maybe if any field inside this sales lead record changes, that's when we want to trigger the workflow. We can even run a workflow when a record is deleted. But getting back to the context for this session, what we said is anytime a sales lead is created. So that's what we'll select here. And now I can come down to the lower part of my screen and I can actually start building out the workflow. So the first thing we said we wanted to do is we wanted to assign it to somebody. So let's go ahead and assign this sales lead record. My first line here, I can just type in a narrative. So I'm just going to type in a description of what I'm doing there. No programming code, nothing like that. So I want to assign the sales lead record, and I can just go ahead and pick somebody in my company that I want to assign that to. I just start to type in her name, and it should go out and find her, and there's that particular user. Okay, so the first step is already done. Let's go ahead and add the next step. We were going to send an email, and we're going to notify Stephanie that she has a new sales lead. So again, I just type in a narrative of what I'm doing here, And I'm going to create a new message. You'll see in just a moment that we can also use templates. But in this particular case, I'm going to create a new message, and I'll set the properties of the message. So the first thing I said is when this email goes to Stephanie to notify her, who do I want it to come from? Well, we have a queue in our CRM called customer care, so that's who we'll send the email from. Who do we want to send this email to? We're going to look at the sales lead record, and we're going to go down and pick the owner of that field. So I'm going to say add, and I'm going to say OK. Now this email is going to go to the owner of whoever we've assigned that sales lead record to. In the subject field, we'll just put in a note that says new sales lead, just to let Stephanie know that she's got something coming. And then we would go ahead and type out our message. Now, in the body of this sales lead, we can also start to drop in information from the record. So if we just wanted to give Stephanie an at-a-glance look at what's been assigned to her, we can do that here. So in the sales lead record, I'm going to drill down and I'm going to find the company name, for example. And I'll just say add and OK, and you'll see that that drops that in now to the body of the email. I could also maybe just put in some basic information like maybe a phone number. Now, of course, all this information resides in CRM. We're just kind of giving Stephanie a heads up in the body of this email what we've assigned to her. And of course, in any CRM email, I've got some formatting tools here, so I can always come down and change the font, change the size, and even change the color. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and I'll save and close that. And now we've completed our second step in the workflow. So the next thing that I wanted to do was I wanted to send an email out to the prospect with whatever message. So once again, I'm going to come down and I'm going to create another email. Okay, and this time I'm going to choose a template. And for the purposes of this demo, I'll just choose any old template here. Here's all of the email templates that we have set up in the system and would be available to us. So we'll just choose this one. And I'll say save and close. Now that I've saved and closed that, once again, I can come right back here to our form and we can say who this is from. And again, who it's going to. And again, we'll choose save and close. Now you'll see that we've got 3 steps in our workflow process here. And finally, what I wanted to do was I wanted to put a task for follow-up on Stephanie's Outlook calendar. So I'm going to again choose select step. This time I'm going to create a record. We'll go ahead and we'll just type in our narrative again. And here are all of the different types of records I can create using CRM workflow. And in this particular case, I'm going to choose a task so it will show up on Stephanie's Outlook calendar. And I can even set the properties of that task, what it will say. Okay, and again, I can come down into the body of the task now and write anything that I want. And again, in the body of the task now, again, I can pull any field from that sales lead record and drop it in here again. So again, I could remind Stephanie of what company name we're going after and any of the other information from that lead. Save and close. And we're done. When that sales lead comes in, we're going to assign it. We're going to notify the person that we've assigned it to them. We're going to send an email out to our sales lead using an email template. And we're going to follow up on Stephanie's task list to make sure that she follows up with that sales lead. At this point in time, if I actually wanted to put this workflow into production, I would simply click my publish button, and that would actually publish it out into the system, and it would be a live workflow in production. To test it, all I would have to do is go out and create a sales lead record. A couple of other related videos on the CRM on Target website that I would invite you back to go out and view, including some videos where we're going to drill down and start building more complex workflows. I'd also invite you to stop by the website anytime, where you'll always find current, recent, and useful information to assist in the deployment and implementation of Microsoft Dynamics CRM in your company. Thanks again for stopping by. I hope that you found this to be a useful video presentation.